And over the next several minutes, I am going to try to convince you to pursue your greatest ambition. If we think of time, of the temporal and spatial aspects of life and the nature of challenge, I think that I can prove to you that you have everything you need to overcome the obstacles that stand between you and greatness. Now to begin, I'm going to start with a really tired metaphor. Yes, you've heard this before today, and once again, time as a river. And I'm going to build on that tired metaphor with an even tireder metaphor. I want you to consider your awareness, your existence, if you will, as a spark that occurs at a point in space which is carried forward through time. Now, as we exist through our lives, we're really capable of doing only one thing, and that is we move through space as we are carried in time. We move around. We touch other things. We exert forces. We do some good. We do some of this. We do some of that. But as we move through space, we see it come. You know what's going to happen. You do. You're going to be dead. I didn't want to be the one to tell you. I didn't. But someone had to. So on this scale, with the river here leading up to Black Mountain, whether you live 20, 30, 40, however many decades of awareness that you're fortunate enough to experience, you might look at this and say, yeah, not bad. Something going on there, huh? That was good. Nice one. But you know in your hearts that the river is long, my friend. The river is deep. Okay, all right. There's actually one point where the river of time metaphor actually does hold water. Sorry. Well, there is. And it is this, that however long a scale of human civilization, roughly 40,000 years, it's still very short. And that everything you did is going to wash out to sea. So I think that this leads to one simple overriding question that we all have to ask ourselves, and that is, what will you do with your time? We really have no other question. And I propose to you that there is a corollary to this question, and that is, should you fulfill your potential? And this is a very personal question. And for me, I think, well, why not? You're going to be dead anyway, right? What do you have to lose? You come from nothing? You go back to nothing? What do you got to lose? Nothing. But so whether your potential, whether your greatest ambition is to be a nurse, maybe a hospice nurse, right? Someone who's caring for people at the time of their lives of absolute need, or whether you want to be whether you think doing science and making great discoveries, or altering technology, or being a new paradigm-shifting engineer or architect, an artist, an actor, or a novelist. Most of you know what that was since you were 10 years old or so. And so the question really is, how come such a small fraction of people truly go for it? Why not more? And I think that the answer is that there's risks involved. That as we get older, we start with a lot of potential, and as we get older, responsibilities pile up, and they come between us and our greatest aspirations, and it's scary, right? And there's risk, financial risk. If I really go for it, maybe I go broke, right? Well, or maybe it's a lot of self-doubt. And so some of that self-doubt can be things like, well, maybe I'm not talented enough to be great. Maybe I'm not good looking. That doesn't apply to any of you. Clearly, please, to be sure. So here's a few people who achieve greatness. None of these people are as good looking as you. Nice. But Ben Franklin could have used a wig. But none of these people were extraordinarily talented. All right, none of them could sing like Frank Sinatra or David Bowie. None of them had the stature of a Shaquille O'Neal. None of them were nearly as fast as Darren McFadden. So what did these people have that allowed them to achieve greatness. Tenacity, perseverance. But so how did they get that? Well, I have this notion, okay? And the notion is that they understood something at a deeper level than the people who don't go for it, who don't achieve greatness. And whether they knew it on a conscious level or not, I think they were aware of something special. And so I think that every challenge has the same structure as life itself. I think that life exhibits a fractal structure. Okay, now I came up with this idea while reading Joseph Campbell's A Hero with 1,000 Faces. So this is, if you will, a physicist's view of the hero's journey. And so let's look at a period of time, the longest time scale you will ever experience, a lifetime. Okay, because this will trace out the structure of challenge. We start as a baby. Now, I don't recall, and maybe you do, but I don't remember my first breath, or the first sound I heard, the first vision I saw. But I would wager that every one of those experiences presented as great a shock to the system, presented as great a challenge as a job interview, as making a career decision. I mean, it kind of seems like it pales, doesn't it? These big risks we take in the face of taking your first breath. What a shock. Okay, so that's the first challenge. And then we go forward, and we, under the guidance of mentors, teachers, and parents, and family, we develop this insane mix of awesomeness and awkwardness, potential that, in many cases, literally is screaming. And what happens after that, when we're ready to be pushed out into the world, we go out into the world. And we have to suffer through struggle and initiation to find our place. Then when we find our place, our potential narrows, responsibilities build up, and we start making changes. And we leave our fingerprints around. We have effects. Our affection changes the world. And then when we're done, hopefully, we cash out with a smile. So this is on the biggest time scale. Let's work through another example at a much smaller time scale. Now for this, the template, I want to use a college education as an example. And the reason is that it's a very well-trod path. It's not an easy one. It's one of the greatest challenges lots of people face. It begins with the call, right? It begins with your decision of whether or not you want to go to college. And you apply. Send out applications. It's a very nervous time. You get rejected by some, you get accepted by others, but all along, you need some help. Now, whether that help was from your teachers in the past building you up to be a good student, or from getting a good letter of recommendation that gets you, or maybe your uncle is a janitor at the university. In the middle of the night, he goes in and shuffles your application into the accepted pile. But it doesn't matter, because whatever it is, once you enter the university, you're in a new world. And you have to find your place. And you struggle and you go through it. At some point, whether your first year, your second year, at some point you get comfortable. And you find your place. And that's when you start affecting other students in your study groups. You affect the graduate student teaching assistants. You affect the professors. And then when you finish, you graduate and you move on to the next thing. All right, so this is the template of challenge. And this is how it is a fractal. Okay, a defining property of a fractal is that it is something that exhibits self-similar structure. And that means that as you look at it on different scales, it looks pretty much the same. So consider this outer circle as that first one, the structure of challenge that is an entire lifetime. And then the inner circle is, let's just say that that's your career. And within that, there's a job. Within that job, there's an assignment. Within that assignment, there's a peculiar task. Then way inside there, there's a tedious meeting you have to somehow get through. But all of these things exhibit the same essential structure of all the others. And for that reason, I think that what the great people understand at some level, and that you have to work from, is that you've done it before. You've faced challenge. You have accomplishments. Whether you're 18 or 80, you have done amazing things. So your life, regardless of your age, is like a gold mine that you can go through and find the gems that you need to realize how you handle challenge. So here's an exercise that I recommend. Write down on a sheet of paper all of your greatest accomplishments, all of them. Go back to the first year you can remember and work your way forward, and don't shortchange yourself. You'll find things, oops, I was going to do that. You'll find things in this list. And when you first look at it, you'll think, well, learning to read, it was destined. And certain things, when you look back, just the shining sheen, you see it seems like fate herself came down and, oh yeah, it was going to happen. Sure, there were some tough times, but as you polish these nuggets of gold, what you'll see is that there were always points in there where it seemed like it was impossible, where it seemed as if you didn't have a snowball's chance in the Mojave Desert. But as you look at them, you made those accomplishments. So how come you didn't give up? What kept you going? Well, in some cases, you might have thought, well, I had no other option. You always have another option. There's nothing keeping you from walking away. So what was it? It's tenacity. That's what gets you through challenge. So what it really boils down to is that it will seem that you don't have a snowball's chance in the Mojave, but if you keep hanging in there, it's going to snow. So let me leave you with this. Millions of people have accomplished great things. There is simply no compelling reason to exclude you. Thank you.